Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, John Petrolino. He is the research arm, is what I call him, of Bearing Arms. John, thanks for coming along for the ride today, man.
Paul, it's a pleasure to be with you, and thank you so much for the invite. I love getting to catch up with you and talk to everybody out there in Second Amendment Foundation land.
There you go. Um, Before we get started, want to mention to everybody, if you want to get in on the conversation, you can comment on either the Facebook or YouTube videos as long as you're watching on Polite Society Podcast, Facebook or YouTube video. If you're watching anywhere else and you want to get in on the conversation, tweet with the hashtag Bullet Podcast. I actually get that the quickest, and I'll get that on the air right away. Should mention as we get going, today is normally Charlie Cook's day. I think Charlie Cook is in his private jet flying somewhere between Utah and Massachusetts. I think he was doing one of those Utah classes or something. But he can't be here today, and so John Petrolino decided to go ahead and step in. John, the first thing I want to talk to you about, and we're going to keep the beginning of the show focused on New Jersey. You had a piece come out on AmmoLand and also one now on Bearing Arms. There are actual real live permits coming out in New Jersey. It's a trickle to be sure, but there are some permits going out. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So, Paul, as the articles mentioned, there are permits to carry that are being issued in the state of New Jersey. I had a chance to interview two recipients that I confirmed that they did get their permits. They were willing to go on the record. And the AmmoLand article, I go a little bit into the process with each of the individuals' experiences and what they did to go about getting their permits. And the Bearing Arms article, I actually focus a little bit more on the statutes and the laws that are in play because we're still finding different experiences with the issuances, but New Jersey is being liberated. And while these are only the two that I confirmed, there have been countless other reports that have been pouring in online. People are getting their permits to carry, and they are exercising their civil liberties in the Garden State. Yes. That's awesome. That's the big news.
Couple of things here real quick. First of all, I don't know why it's not coming through on my broadcast software, but over on the Facebook side, Charlie Cook saying Charlie's somewhere in Maryland. I don't know if we can say that one's accurate or not. I think that just may be hearsay. But anyway, New Jersey has been one of the most ardent anti-gun states. It's good to see that there are some permits coming out, and I want to bring this up on the air with you. On Saturday, I had Tony Simon on the weekend edition of The Bullet. He said that in Middlesex County, apparently there's one judge per county that does this, and in Middlesex County, the judge was saying, I'm not complying, I'm not doing it. Nobody's getting a permit in Middlesex County. And this is anecdotal.
Yep.
There's no proof of this, but have you heard of this elsewhere, or can you confirm that in Middlesex?
So I didn't know that Middlesex was having issues. I know that different jurisdictions were having different problems. Monmouth County, that's my county. The rumor in Monmouth County is that we too have a judge that's not issuing permits. However, then we were told that maybe this guy was on vacation for 2 weeks, and then we got a new judge that got assigned. So there's a lot of rumor and a lot of hearsay going on right now. And honestly, we're not going to be able to sift all of that out until all of the statutorily, mandated timelines are expired. So I believe, and don't hold my feet to the fire on this, I believe the police for the town, your issuing authority, or the state police barracks if you're out of state, or in an unincorporated area, I believe the police have 60 days to usher along your application. And if they don't, it's actually supposed to be a de facto affirmative, believe it or not. And then somewhere I read that it's 30 days that the court has to act on the application once they have it. So if you look at the timeline, we're in June when we got the decision, which was, I think, what was it, the 23rd? The
It was
decision
the
came?
end of the month, yeah.
So it was like the day after the decision came out is when New Jersey's Attorney General sent out his guidance saying that they're no longer going to be requiring justifiable need. And from there, people did start jumping on this. So if you just look at that, roughly speaking, it's the end of June to the end of July to the end of August. So now we're kind of coming around these corners where maybe we're going to have some people that have gone past that 90 days. I don't really know. We're going to have to see what happens. But they, for people that are having problems, the Association of New Jersey Rifle Pistol Clubs, ANJRPC, their strike force has been sending out cease and desist letters, from what I've been told and from what I understand, and that many jurisdictions and townships have been complying with the orders, basically saying, look, you have to do this. You don't have a choice. And if you're a clerk or you're a police chief or whoever in the process, you are actually standing in the way of somebody exercising their civil liberties. And at that point, they can actually be held accountable themselves as individuals. This isn't just, the township gets their wrist slapped. This is malfeasance, and this is a serious thing. So I believe, from what I understand, a lot of these jurisdictions, when they're getting these little nasty grams, they've been kind of falling into line. So we're going to have to see what happens. The other matter that is of contention, which is also going to have to be sorted out, and if you look at the AmmoLand article and the Bearing Arms article, both of them mention this. One of the guys that got issued a permit got issued an unrestricted permit, meaning he can carry any gun that he legally owns. The other recipient, he got a restricted permit just to the firearms he qualified with. So the Bearing Arms story talks more about the statute and how the law, as written by the legislature, says that your permit to carry is good for any gun that you own. And then if you drill down into the administrative code, there's all these little tiny bullet points that they have to show your suitability and your safety with a firearm. One of the items is a qualification that says to qualify with the firearm you intend to carry. But we have to understand the context of a lot of this was in regards to retired police officers getting their permits to carry and security guards. So the law, which has been, there's nothing wrong with our law for how many decades? Well, now all of a sudden we're seeing how screwed up their law is, but justifiable need being removed, there's actually very little restrictions, and that's one area where restrictions are coming into play, where people are getting the make, model, serial numbers of their firearms printed on the back of their permits to carry.
So let me ask this: New Jersey, people have been applying since, let's say, early July. Walk us through, if you would, what does the application process look like, and how much does it cost in total to get a New Jersey permit? So all in on the administrative end for the state of New Jersey and the rigmarole you have to go through with them, it's $50 to the state treasurer of New Jersey, which is a money order that you have to have made out to him or her. Okay, and then you have to go and get your fingerprints done, which is also a fee, and that's through Identigo, which used to be Morpho Trust, which was John Corzine's company, interestingly enough. So that fee, I believe it's about $50, maybe $40. Now, if you go out of state, and there's a lot of people, myself included,
that have been compelled or forced to go out of state to get their fingerprints done, they put a surcharge on there. So I believe it's like $98 if you do it out of state. So that's just the administrative end. For the training end, and here's the problem, there is no set standard right now. Like, it's very loose. And basically, from what I'm seeing and past guidance that I got from the state police when I was working on an article about a company that was doing what we'll call less than truthful advertising in the state about permits to carry, the state police said we don't really distinguish, one class over the other on the suitability. It's just a matter of if an instructor that's vetted, and one of those vetted instructors would be an NRA certified instructor, is vouching for the individual as they are trained or qualified, they accept that. So what a lot of the ranges are doing, and this is where you're going to get into another fee schedule. So there's different ranges all over the state. I know that Anthony Calandro's Gun for Hire at the Woodland Park Range, he's got his RPO, which is the Retired Police Officer qual, that he's doing for people that want to get their permits to carry. And he's doing the same exact program that he's been doing for decades, that he's been doing with RPOs. And his clients and customers are getting issued permits to carry with his qualification. Now, that RPO involves using, the RPO qual uses the FBIQ target, which is the Coke bottle target. Everybody knows what that is. And then it's, I think, out to 25 yards is where you're starting, and then you're going to do some strong hand and I believe some weak hand. And then you bring the target closer, and I believe you go through 50 rounds with that qualification. Now, one of the other ranges that was mentioned in the articles was RTSP. Now, their qualification, they're doing a similar thing. It's an altered version of the RPO qualification, but instead of going out to 25 yards, they're only going out to 15 yards for their maximum distance. So there's no set thing like, say, California has a set thing. You got to be this amount of yards, and you have to do 15 rounds total, and, at these distances and whatever. So that's something that's going to be fleshed out. And again, same thing with one county issuing permits that are restricted and another county issuing permits that aren't restricted. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
And I hate to keep drawing lines of comparison between my state and other states. However, we got our South Dakota is a constitutional carry state. You don't need to ask the government permission to exercise your constitutional right. South Dakota does offer an enhanced permit that has reciprocity with 40 states, and it was, from the time it came out, it was very structured as to, because when they did the reciprocity agreements, this is what the other states wanted, and so there's very much you shoot both hands, or however you shoot at 15 yards, you shoot this many shots, and then you do closer, you do strong hand, you do weak hand. It's been long enough since I've done the qualification, but I do remember that this was the exact prescribed, and they told me that I would need 52 rounds to get through qualification. So
that's nice of them.
I brought 100 and I used the rest of them. So but anyway. So I like going back to New Jersey. It is good to see. Like I said, this is not a flood; it's a trickle. But if you get a crack in a dam, a trickle will become a flood, and I honestly see that happening for New Jersey. The more people that exercise their rights, they will come to value those rights, and hopefully, this is a political flood as well.
Well, yeah, and with this process, and again, since this process is seldom used over the decades, they switch over and go electronic with it, like they have with the other May I documents that you need just to buy firearms. and that's the thing. Like the application, you ask them about the process. The application, you need to print it in triplicate, duplexed, front and back side. You can't do 2 pages. It has to be front and back. And each of those 3 applications need to have live signatures from your actual people that are going to vouch for you. So you need 3 references, and they can't be photocopied versions of the application. You need to have ink on each of those 3 applications. Then when you go with those, take those 3 applications, and you need to get that notarized saying that you are the person that you say you are on the front of the application. So that's like one part. Then the other part they're asking for is proof of ownership of the firearms of which you wish to carry. And again, I think this is where things are getting a little hairy with where that is in the law versus the statute. I'm not sure if that's part of the administrative code. I don't remember really seeing that in the law, but I have to go back and look through it. So that needs to be in the form of pistol purchaser permits if you have those copies when you bought them in New Jersey, or a receipt that has the serial number on it. Or you can send a letter, you write up a letter stating that you own these firearms, and that also needs to be notarized. So you get that notarized as well. So if you don't have a bank that you could go to get things notarized for free, you have to pay to get things notarized. Then there are people that do have to do that. Now, I went to my regular bank, and they told me there wasn't going to be a notary in that week, and I just packed up. I went to another bank, and it's a bank that I do have an account at, but they didn't ask me anything. I just walked in. I said, I need a notary. They took out their book. They notarized my paperwork. We filled out their book, and I went on my merry way. The rest of the application process is there's a mental health background check form that needs to be filled out. And the special thing about that form is it needs to be signed in the presence of the issuing authority. So when you go to drop off your application packet, you want that on the top so you can sign that in front of the person that's behind the bulletproof glass so that they're safe from you and all of this paperwork that you have, the little tornado. So there's the mental health background check form. And then you also need, and they say, 4 passport-sized photographs. But the trick is they're not passport-sized photographs. Their passport-sized photographs are 2 by 2. They want 1.5 by 1.5. So you have to ask for an Argentina-sized passport photograph. So it's like, this is like a comedy of errors. Like Arlo Guthrie should write a song about this process because it is that absurd. So then you get your pictures. You've got your qualification that you had done at Gun for Hire or RTSP or one of the other ranges that's in New Jersey, or other instructors. And of course, there's going to be a fee for that to those instructors, whatever they charge you, $100, $150. I don't know. It's between you and the range. And then maybe any other course certificates. My mentality is throw as much at the wall as possible. Throw in every certificate that you have in there that says you're a responsible firearms user and good gun owner, and you're trained. And you put that in your little packet as well. And I believe that's all of the steps. Now you take that application packet, you bring it to your issuing authority, which is your local police department or state police barracks if you're unincorporated or from out of state. And then they're going to give you a case number for your fingerprints, and that's when you go to Identigo to get your fingerprints done. And then you have to make an appointment, and in New Jersey, the appointments are 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks out. So me personally, 2 weeks ago, I went and got my fingerprints. My appointment was made in Staten Island, New York. So I drove all the way across the outer bridge out into Staten Island, and got there, and they turned me away, and they said, "We're not taking taking fingerprint applicants from New Jersey anymore because we're getting too many of you people over here." I'm like, "You got to be, yeah, you people." So I called Identigo up, and they said like that branch is having issues, in particular. Do you want one in Brooklyn? I'm like, no, I don't want one in Brooklyn. Let's look at Pennsylvania. So then this morning I went and got my fingerprints done in Pennsylvania, and I brought my little receipt to my police department, and I said, here you go. Here's the last piece of the puzzle. So we'll see what happens if I can hold up my permit to carry, hopefully in a short order. We'll see.
Let me get a couple comments in here real quick. George on the YouTube side says he bought his first house in Mercer County, New Jersey. Now, George is a San Diego guy, if I'm remembering right. So he went from terrible to horrible gun rights. you know.
Well, and San Diego, they've had right to carry for quite a few years now since the San Diego County gun owners got on the sheriff. Sheriff, I think Gore was his name. They got on him, and he changed his ways when he started to see he was losing political support.
And then about a year and a half ago, it kind of swung back the other way. There's been a constant fight in San Diego.
Yeah.
And then he also followed up with, sounds like it would be easier to join the Army. They'll give you a gun.
On loan.
Yes. And they'll tell you when you can use it. So there is that. I do want to get, we do have stories we need to get to today where we've used up all but about 9 minutes of the show.
Sorry about that.
No.
This is big for New Jersey. I mean, this is something that the Peruta, the Drake case, I mean, Cheeseman, Rogers, we're talking about a lot of lawsuits that just, and then just the memo changed it all from Bruin,
Yeah.
So this is a good day.
If I thought you were babbling on and we needed to move on, I would have moved you on. There is a little button I can push here that I can just move us on if I want to move us on. But no, you're doing fine. First news that crossed my notice this morning: Ohio is pretty decent on gun rights. I'd say they're in the top maybe half of the nation. And even so, I came across this Yahoo.com article. In an attempt to revive some strong Ohio proposals against gun violence stalled in the General Assembly since 2019, an attempt to revive some strong Ohio proposals against gun violence stalled in the General Assembly since 2019 faces a timeline that's hard to meet. State Senator Matt Dolan announced Senate Bill 357. How ironic is this week? He's seeking legislative co-sponsors, but the bill won't get any formal consideration until lawmakers reconvene after the November 8th general election. Full House and Senate sessions aren't scheduled until November 16th. The last session's for December 21st, and the 134th General Assembly ends December 31st. Basically what this is a red flag law. It's there's a lot of there's a mandatory storage in this bill. There's a lot of anti-gun stuff. DeWine, the governor, has said he'll sign it if he gets it, but thankfully there's not been enough support to move it anywhere in the legislature. It looks like someone in the media is just trying to move it forward, and they got picked up by Yahoo.
So what I find absolutely absurd about this story is, aside from the fact that Ohio just went permitless carry not too long ago, so that's showing you that there is a strong support for the Second Amendment, like as a proper noun. This time last year, I had notes opened up. I think it was about this time last year, notes opened up, getting ready to write articles about Ohio becoming a sanctuary state. And I don't know if you remember that, but they were creeping in that direction. And
Yep.
Amanda Suffolk from Eye on the Target Radio, she had a beautiful testimony that she delivered at her state house on that very topic. So to see that the governor, which this is the same exact system of people, is like, yeah, I'm going to sign on for red flag laws. Like, this is the exact opposite of what I would consider a Second Amendment sanctuary would stand for.
Yeah, it is. And DeWine, by the way, under duress, he didn't want to, but he did sign constitutional carry this year.
Oh, well.
So, yeah. Um, Next story I want to get to. I want to get to as many as I can. We got about 5 minutes left. Charlotte Observer. And Charlotte, let's just say North Carolina is in maybe the top 2/3. North Carolina is trying to crack the top half of gun-friendly states. They're having a tough time getting there. Part of that is the Charlotte Observer. This story today, Madison County, one over from where I live in Asheville, garnered national headlines recently with an announcement that every school in the North Carolina country will be outfitted with an AR-15 this year. This initiative embodies how many on the right today bend over backward to suggest anything but gun control as a salve for gun violence. Madison County Sheriff Buddy Harwood wrote on Facebook, quote, to exhaust every resource we've got to ensure our kids are safe, that when they go to school, they can learn, and they can go to the playground and play, and not worry about some thug who's going to come out onto the playground and open up them with some type of AR-15 shotgun, pistol, or whatever. The article continues, only Harwood didn't exhaust every resource. If he'd done that, he'd have been advocating for meaningful gun control. A shooter can't open fire with an AR-15 if they can't purchase one. I want to point out to the Charlotte Observer, the AR-15 has been for sale in the United States since the early 1960s. It was invented in the mid-1950s. There are hundreds of thousands, probably over 1 million AR-15s in the United States. If they can't purchase one, they will steal one. Or, the files are out there. They will print one, or they will. Just because you ban the sale of them doesn't eliminate them, Charlotte Observer. John, it's on you, man.
The statistic, just to talk you back off of your ledge there, I remember reading and hearing the often cited statistic that there are more AR-15s in circulation than there are Ford F-150s on the road. And even in New Jersey, you can't go very far without seeing an F-150. Just putting that out there.
Yeah. That would not shock me, simply because, how do I put this? Ford F-150s, where every third vehicle on the road is a Ford F-150. And, I should say every third vehicle on the road is a pickup truck. And about a third of those are F-150s, so maybe 1 in 9. But at any rate, but we're a very rural area where I live. I'm in the biggest city in South Dakota, but that's not saying much. Pickups have such utility that you still see pickups in, when we went to Dallas for NRA annual meeting, there's pickups all over downtown Dallas, and there's no farms within 30 miles. They're still, they're utilitarian, and to say that there's more AR-15s than Ford F-150s, that's saying something.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get a couple comments on this story. This may even be our last story because we're down to 2 minutes. So, John says evil cannot be controlled. That's why gun control laws are a failure. It's not my responsibility to oppose younger, stronger, numerically superior criminals by using antique firearms. John, you're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, my opinion is, and it's just my opinion, this has not made it through the Supreme Court, but I believe it will. My opinion is you have the right to own an M4. If you have the right to own a belt-fed Browning automatic rifle. Those are your rights, according to Paul Lathrop. Let's wait for the Supreme Court to actually go through before you go down to the gun store and put money down on one. But So yeah, it's you're absolutely right, John. It shouldn't be on us to go to go up against the gangbangers with muskets. We shouldn't have to do that. George says some ARs are old enough to be classified as curio and relic. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here, and Michael says, "Breathe, Paul, breathe." I guess I did kind of get off on that one, didn't I? All right. I really hate to cut you short, John. I am sorry, but we are half past the bottom of the hour, and I've got to turn around in 30 minutes and do polite society. Tell everybody your stuff shows up on AmmoLand, shows up on Bearing Arms. Tell everybody where they can find your stuff and what you're working on now, man.
Yep. So you can find me, like Paul said, at AmmoLand, at Bearing Arms, Air Armed Lifestyle. Once in a while, I'm still doing stuff at JM4 Tactical. Check out my book, Decoding Firearms. It's about using guns, a 101 level look. So for new gun owners, it's definitely something to consider. You can find me on the web at thepenpatriot.com. Check me out on Facebook at The Pen Patriot. And I'm on Instagram, J Petrolino III, Twitter, John Petrolino. I'm out there. Come find me. If you have any news tips, please look me up and send me some tips, because some of the best stories that I get are tips from other readers or other advocates. And what am I working on right now? Not a whole lot. I have a couple of projects that I'm working on, a kind of a long-term one on the New York SAFE Act, and I have some work to do on that, and whatever else blows my way, we'll see.
Well, I do know one thing you were probably at least back burnering is coming up the end of September. You're going to be speaking at AmCon, which is the Second Amendment Foundation's Alternative Mass Media Conference. You're going to be delivering a talk on research, and just to plug you a little bit, of everybody I know in Second Amendment media, you are the absolute best at research. You can pull up things that it stuns me when you find this stuff.
Well, I appreciate that, Paul. There's plenty of other excellent writers that do great work as well. So thank you very much. I'm not going to say I'm the best, but if you're going to say it, all right, we'll go with that. Thank you, Paul.
All right. Folks, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for contributing by commenting. Come join me tomorrow, 5 p.m. Central Time, and we'll do this again.